Hey everybody, Pulcher here with part 2 of 3 of the patch notes for 1.6, and there is a bunch of stuff changing, so buckle down and let's get into it. The first part of the patch notes are rather interesting. The majority of the points are aimed towards the higher level players in the game, with a few changes to the people who are on their way to the top. So we have the HP of high level heroes being increased. This is to stop the squishy heroes from being railed, so it's not making them invincible, it's just giving every character a chance to perform at least one of their abilities before someone like Rock or Tanita shutting them down. The dodge chance is being capped at 25%, apart from specific champions who possess natural dodge as part of their feature. So again, Tanita and Swamp Killer, they both have the ability, an increased dodge chance, so that's not going to change. Their dodge chance will still be above 25%. The critical hit damage will now be 1.5 times the damage of the ordinary damage of that ability. Again, this is to flesh out battles so characters aren't being annihilated within the first few seconds of the match. This point is very interesting, and I think it's safe to say it's a welcome change, as damage will no longer break marks in combat. This is a huge because it gives people a reason to study how they want their characters to work or their teams to work. Before this update, marks were generally a be in the right place at the right time to trigger them, but now you can actually set up characters for a bag full of new combinations. So I think this is a pretty solid change. It's just going to give people a chance to study their characters more and build more unique teams. Now this update is pretty big because Playcott has put a short cooldown on certain boss abilities so that they can't cast instantly in battle. So I already know some of you are questioning this change, probably thinking that is it bad, but I feel like it has a hidden motive. It seems like a big change, seeing as there are only 3 available bosses in the game at the moment. We have Roland, Worm Priest, and Danae. So this change suggests to me that more boss champions are lined up to be released pretty soon. Probably not going to come out in 1.6, but I feel like this change is suggesting that bosses are well on the horizon. So another change that is coming is that characters won't be able to unlock abilities or specific abilities until they reach a certain equipment level. Now, I feel like people will think this is an average change, but I feel in the overall of things it's a good change because it's giving people a chance to try out new champions, giving them a sense of achievement or a goal to reach by unlocking that new ability. Now, this will give people a chance to try out new champions, and then possibly they will like that champion enough that they incorporate it into their main squad. Again, if you don't like this change, it's not a big deal because it's only going to affect people who are just starting out or even just the first few levels of gameplay. So it's not a big change. It's not going to affect the overall game. It's not groundbreaking or game breaking. It's just there to give people a chance to try out new things. So I think in the scheme of things, it's a pretty good update. So now onto the character reworks for the patch, and there are heaps, so I'll try to keep this short and sweet and focus mainly on the larger changes. For the Arikan Undead, the Spear will now receive a 100% Fortitude buff when using his ability Fortitude of the Immortals. Axe Thrower Double Throw has a chance of reducing an enemy's armor, so again the developers are aiming to make battles last longer and adding a level of strategy to the game that wasn't there before. So you're thinking, do I use my powerful ability first, or do I set up for someone else to use their powerful ability? Blood Priest is getting a bunch of changes that I think the community will be happy with. His basic attack now has a chance of healing him. He receives more healing if the enemy has a debuff, and his ability Black Sacrifice heals allied Arikan for double the amount. So Old Mate has gone from hindering a team to just dishing out heals left, right, and center. So this guy could very easily be viable now, especially with an Arikan themed team. Last for the Arikan is the Blood Mage. His Forbidden Ritual now increases your undead character's speed. Blood River now has a chance of prolonging dots for a 1 turn, and Dusk of the Arikan has a crazy change. Characters healed when affected by this debuff will instead receive a dot. Now this is exciting for me because a while back the community managers asked for suggestions on how characters can be changed, and I actually suggested this. Instead of receiving a heal, one would be inflicted with a dot. It just goes to show that the team behind Age of Magic is listening to its fan base, and it's taking its suggestions seriously. So this is a really good step, and it's showing that they're invested in their fan base and the people playing their game. So onto the barbarians. Aratar's ability, Blood of the Chieftains, will now slightly increase allied barbarian speed. Nice and easy. 7 knives. Now he isn't even in the game at the moment, and he's still got a buff, which is pretty full on. His Grand 7 ability slows an opponent right down, and his Knife of Mercy will receive no cooldown if it kills an enemy. So yeah, I think when this guy comes out, everyone will try and get him because he will deal that much damage that it would just be stupid not to get him. Plus, with the buffs to the HP, he will be in the battle for a few turns, so you're going to be able to get those abilities out. Silver Moon now has a chance of removing dots with Healing Flow, and Balara's Swamp Curse now removes the taunt off enemy tanks. So good updates for these guys. Hopefully it gets Balara into some fights now, because a tank taunt can pretty much decide if you win or lose a fight. Now for this beast, Swamp Killer. Now quickly reading over her change, I can see everyone getting a bit of a hard on, but hold your horses because it's only making it so her attacks cannot be dodged. It is not changing the fact that Swamp Killer can still miss her abilities, and she does miss a lot, so please be aware of this and consider it before investing into her. She is still amazing, but she still has her flaws. Now onto the dwarves. So these menaces are probably the favourite faction at the moment. They have a bit of a cult following on the Age of Magic Discord, so these changes are met with open arms. Ambra has now an increased fortitude through a new passive they are adding to him. I honestly haven't seen a single team with Ambra on it, but hopefully with the overall changes to dwarves, someone will find value in him. I honestly think he has value, but he needs the backing of a full dwarf team. Hagrim's Earth of Light will now remove 1 negative effect, so that's pretty okay. Angrim will now receive an increased dodge when using the move Berserker Rage. This dodge will increase with every enemy hero on the field. So this is going to be very interesting to see because Angrim is just a monster when he gets his AoE ability off. Mix that with the Dwarven Mark and your enemy is in all sorts of trouble. Gas's Oil Veil will now increase magic damage taken against an enemy hit with it. This is good because it used to just increase damage taken from fire abilities, and there aren't that many fire abilities within the game, so no one was really utilizing this move. Trorin's Stone Rain will now reduce enemy speed, which again, a change to a boss that isn't even in the game yet, suggests that bosses are well on the horizon. And then we have Velendar, who's receiving a change to his passive ability, allowing dwarves not to just deal physical damage, but magical damage as well. So this is just rounding off the dwarves with a nice smooth edge, and giving them a fighting chance against high armored teams. So now we're on to the Demons and the Dragonkins. I'm just going to combine these two. I'm just going to skim past the small changes. Gatekeeper will now heal more health when using Cannibal Hunger. Abyss Hound will deal more damage against enemies with a dot. Rogar is finally receiving an increase to his defenses when using the Bastion of Faith ability. This was desperately needed. He was probably one of the weakest tanks in the game, but hopefully this makes him viable. Karana's Ray of Light will have a chance of decreasing the accuracy, so these are pretty nice updates. Then we have Zart. I left him to the end because he has the largest amount of changes. His Darkness of Oblivion will now slow enemies down, and Illusory Immortality, well, this is really unique now. Brings 3 people back from the dead, but only for 1 turn. So I'm beyond interested to see someone using this in battle. At the moment, he gets no use, but this could make him very dangerous. Bringing 3 people back, even for just a turn, could cause all types of havoc to your opponent. So, on to everyone's favourite greenskins. Again, I'm going to leave Kobold Guards to last because he has the largest changes. Soothsayer is finally becoming a real support. Increased crit chance to all kobolds, and Anger of the Flies now deals damage to characters with positive and negative status effects. I feel like she may be essential for a kobold team now, especially because her passive, which increases the stats of all allied kobolds. Scout, his Poison Jab will now slow enemies, and his Kobold Camouflage will now increase his dodge chance all the way up to 100%, which is really good because of Spear and Slinger pretty much. They both have the ability to hide from combat. So I feel like this is staying true to the Kobold's nature of hiding and then striking with powerful force. The Slinger, his hide ability, will now give more speed to his allied kobolds. So this faction is just becoming a force of speed and evasion, and I think anyone building a kobold team is going to become rather dangerous once these changes have become implemented. Kobold Lock, he's getting a slow to his throw potion ability. Lastly, again, we have the Kobold Tank. I definitely reckon he's worth getting now. Especially if you plan to make a kobold team, as he can now taunt multiple enemies, with that chance increasing with every kobold on your team. And his shield wall now heals for more, but its duration has been shortened. So I think he's absolutely pushed into the tank category now, whereas before he was considered more of a support than anything else. So second last, we have the Ra Arachne. I'm going to read these changes word for word because out of all the factions, the Ra Arachne are probably the ones I know the least about. So Akrashat. Akrashat's speed will be considerably increased at the start of battle if there is a Kashat in the team. Kashat. Basic attacks will have a chance to decrease an enemy's speed. His ability Coal of Kashat will make a random Ra Arachne strike back when Kashat receives damage. To hit, Flurry of Spikes will be dealing more damage for each negative effect the enemy has, and his Venomous Spikes will be removing one random buff. Ra Spit, basic attack. Ra Spit will have a chance to perform an additional basic attack if an enemy suffers from poison or a slow down. So what I believe they have changed with the Ra Arachne is that they have given them more synergy as a faction, as now they kind of bounce off each other. Each one supports or benefits their teammate in some way. Lastly, we have the Knight of the Council Roland, whose magic shield will now not only protect himself but another character on your team with the lowest amount of health. It's a nice buff for him, but personally I think he could still be made a bit stronger. In the end, he is the boss character. He is a boss character, plus the main champion of the story. I'm not saying he should be made ridiculously overpowered, but I still feel like he could be buffed a bit more. Overall, I feel Play.Ucot have aimed to increase the synergy between characters and their factions. I also think the changes have made the factions more unique, and it also added a depth to the characters that wasn't there before. And it's going to change the way people choose to play the game from here on out. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment or join the Age of Magic Discord. I'm on there as Polcho, but there are plenty of people who are always willing to help. Thank you for watching, and until next time, take care everyone.